second guest, and I'm kind of excited. Al, you've been diligently working trying to get us to do business with Africa.
Well,
so tell us where you are on that, and first tell us about you and your organization, because I didn't pull up your bio.
First off, the organization that I'm associated with is called the Pan-African Global Trade, it's called the Africa USA Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And it was founded in 1992, I believe, or thereabouts. And you can go to the website, africausa.org, and it gives you a sort of a brief historical sketch of how we got started.
Mm-hmm.
But it was founded while Tom Bradley was still mayor of L.A.
Okay, well, that's a long time ago.
It was founded primarily to begin the process of changing the relationship that the city of L.A. and the state of California have with the African continent in the area of trade and investment. It's not as though either the city or the state of California never had any relationship with Africa, but that the activity that existed compared to what was existing with say Asia and Europe and South America was not as much as it could have been. So the chamber came on board to be an advocate for that activity.
Okay.
And since that time, we've established what we're going to be talking about today, which is the Pan-African Trade and Investment Conference. It's an annual conference that we've been doing since 2010.
Okay.
And the goal of the conference primarily is to provide an ongoing platform, if you will, where we can bring people together and begin to talk about trade and investment, but look at it from what's called a bilateral perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're looking at not only how we as African Americans can trade, do business in Africa, but also how Africans can do business in the U.S.
Okay.
And we found that both is needed. We can't assume that just because Africans want to do business in the U.S. that they necessarily know how to do it. And we also can't assume that just because we as African Americans want to do business in Africa that we know how to do it. Because what we found to be true is that there's a learning curve that needs to be happening on both sides.
Okay.
So what we've been doing primarily through the conference has been trying to, if not decrease the curve, but make it at least provide much information as possible so that people will actually be able to trade effectively. That's the important thing, doing effective business.
So where are we in the process? Because I know
we still got a lot of work to do.
We still got a lot.
Right
and that is because.
Well, it's because people on both sides tend to don't have realistic expectations about what the opportunities are, and then the other problem you have is that people on both sides don't prepare. For the opportunity.
Okay.
So one of the things I was doing when I first began to work for the chamber was I was taking people to the continent to look at business opportunities.
Okay.
So I took trade missions to Nigeria, I took them to South Africa, I took them to Ethiopia, I took them to Uganda, I took them to Ghana, and we would sit down and we would introduce them to potential business partners, potential business opportunities, and people would have a great time. They would love to go back to the continent. They'd come back, but nothing would happen beyond the mission.
Okay.
And at that point, I began to realize, wait a minute, I got to stop. There's a problem here. And the problem primarily was people needed to have some basic information about how to establish what I call a trade program within their business.
Okay.
As part of your business activities, what you need to do is actually establish a separate division of your program, of your business, whatever it is that deals particularly with international trade.
So that's so it's separate than doing business here in the United States.
Yeah. Because what you're focusing on is how it's one thing to think about how I'm going to market my business in the U.S., but it's another thing to think about how I'm going to market that same business in Asia or in Africa or some other parts of the world.
Okay.
And what you've got to do is begin to think globally as opposed to thinking domestically about how you're going to do what you're going to do.
Because there's costs involved, right?
Yeah,
that you would not have doing business here.
Yeah, for example, you got to get on an airplane.
Right. So you can't
travel.
do it. You just can't do it sitting here.
Right.
You actually have to go over there to establish the
relationships, which means you got airplane fees, you got hotel, based upon the relationships that you established before you went. You have travel expenses while you're there, meals, all these kind of things come into play when you're thinking about beginning the process of establishing a business relationship with someone in another continent.
Okay.
And a lot of it is not a quick deal. I mean, you can't go over there and expect to come back necessarily with a trade deal on one visit. Okay.
But I assume that people do.
Well, it happens. It has happened. I'm not going to say that they don't.
Okay.
But you don't want to expect it to happen on the first visit, unless you've done some serious homework and you've got somebody on the other side waiting for you that's good to go, and that your product or service is something they desperately need. But you've got to have done a certain amount of promotion, and also you've got to do a little bit of research on the person you're going to be dealing business with in order for that to happen on a first time around. Normally it doesn't happen that quickly. You know, you don't sell normally on a first trip. You may have to go back again. And
we're talking large volume, right? We're not talking that someone's gone from another country has come to your website and you're selling whatever, you're selling hats, right?
It doesn't necessarily mean it's not about volume even, because the volume is something that increases over time.
Okay.
What you need to do is establish a sound, viable business relationship.
Okay.
And you got to understand how business is done in the country where you're going.
Okay. And understand the culture.
It's not necessarily cultural issues. There's banking issues. There's issues of trust. All that has to be in play.
Okay.
And you have to feel very comfortable about the business relationship you have, or the potential that exists, before you actually want to go in there and try to close the deal.
Okay.
Now, so that's just some of the basics, and I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself, what I wanted to talk about today. But anyway, the one of the things that we're trying to do is help people begin to think in terms of three essential things when they're going to set up a trade program.
Okay.
One, they need to be able to do what we call international marketing research.
Okay.
And they want to be able to actually do research on the country where they're going, find out about the cultural issues, find out about the political issues that are happening in that country, what type of banking system they have in the country, what's the business activity in the country, and what are the potential that exists for them to either find a buyer or a partner in that country. Okay, because that's what you're looking at. Someone who you can partner with on doing business there, or someone who's ready to buy whatever it is that you're trying to sell, whether it's a good or a service.
And are there processes in place that can help guide you to make those?
There are processes in place, and there's resources in place. Like the Department of Commerce will provide you with a country profile that will give you an idea of what exists in that country at all the levels that I've just talked about. But there also are people who are experts in this and who can help you.
Okay.
At our conference we're having this year, we actually have an expert coming from Cal State San Bernardino, who is an expert on doing international trade research. Her name is Sharita Jackson.
Okay.
And she'll be at our conference this year to talk about just what I'm talking about right now.
Okay.
And she is very excited and anxious to be there for that very purpose. So having her there, having her coming to the conference and meeting her will be a good way to get started and to find out some of the things you need to be doing to do research. Okay. It's possible that we may also have a rep come from the Department of Commerce. We'll see how that works out. But in either case, he doesn't necessarily have to come. If people know that the Department of Commerce is available and they have an interest, we can hook them up with the Department of Commerce so they can get that type of research. The other thing they need to be familiar with is what we call trade finance. There's a cost associated with doing international trade, and normally you're talking about the cost of either primarily shipping your product from point A to point B, but also the cost associated with promoting your product. And I mentioned some of the logistical issues, you know, having to go there and all that. But you also want to make sure that you are able to say, once you're able to actually close a deal, that you're able to pay the cost of doing the transaction. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So is that like a tax or?
Well, there's a lot of things involved in it.
Okay.
There could be custom fees.
Okay.
There could be shipping fees.
Okay.
There's there's insurance issues. All right. Now there's an excellent resource for that as well, and normally it's the XM Bank. The XM Bank.
Okay.
And what the XM Bank's job primarily is to actually help people finance a trade deal once the deal has actually been closed. So,
okay.
So let's say, for example, you go to the continent or any place else in the world for that matter, and you actually have sold a product to company A.
Okay.
And you have the invoice, right? And then the company said, I want so much of what it is that you offer, and I've got it in writing, and they in fact have provided you with the money that you need to actually begin to make the shipment. Okay?
Right.
You give that to the XM Bank, and they validate that you've done it, and they will basically provide you with a loan to actually do the transaction.
Oh, okay.
Now, what will happen though is that loan will come out of the final payment that you get. So in other words, if you are actually able to make a profit, say, let's say $10 million off a deal, part of that money will go to the XM Bank to pay for the loan that they just gave you.
So again, that's part of the cost.
But that's part of the cost. Okay. But the nice thing about the XM Bank is they will help you with everything that you need to do to actually do the transaction, whether it's letters of credit, that type of thing. They're very good at helping you source that and get that done.
Okay.
So the nice thing about the XM Bank is that it is still here. Bush tried to get rid of it. I mean, not Bush, but our 45, our current president. I can't even say his name.
I know.
But
right now, he the only one wants to do anything international. He don't want nobody else to have that opportunity. So that's where we are with him.
Thank God we were able to get them funded this year. And I believe they've got enough funding to keep them alive and around for the next 4 or 5 years or so.
Okay, until we get rid of him.
So, yeah, exactly. You got that right. But the last part of this we want to make sure that people are aware of is something we call global logistics. In other words, what is the best way to move product A to product B? Do I do it shipping? Do I air freight it? And then what's the cost of either one of those? And sometimes, and one of the issues with Africa is that that's always tend to be a very complicated situation based upon what it is you want to do.
Okay.
I know a guy that actually is very good at doing shipping, and it may take him, say, 2-3 months to fill a crate full of, a container full of the goods that he wants to ship to the continent. And he'll spend actually maybe 2 or 3 months actually putting in that container, the stuff he's going to ship, and then before he closes it, seals it, and then he'll put it on a ship, and he just called me the other day and said, I'm getting ready to ship the container.
So this could take 2 or 3 months.
It took him 2 or 3 months.
And then how long does it take to get it to the other side?
Well, it depends upon how the shipping, the carrier that you use. But you figure that it's probably going to take at least a month for the shipment to get to the continent.
Okay.
Then when it gets there, you got to make sure that you've taken care of everything on that end with the customs and everything else, so that you can actually go to the crate, break the seal, get in there and get your stuff out. But then you either got to be there when it gets there.
So you got to send it, and then you got to fly over there and wait and be there when it gets there.
When it gets there, or you have to know somebody you can trust who can handle it when it arrives. Okay. So you're going to get a bill of lading that's going to basically tell you, okay, this is what we're shipping. This is how long it's going to take for it to get there. It's like when you get an airplane ticket, right?
Right.
And it says, okay, you paid to go from here to here. Okay, it's going to take you this long to get there. Right, etc. This particular will happen. So you'll know pretty much about approximately when that ship is actually going to get to the continent, or wherever you're going to. So you can plan your trip there based upon what you've paid for to get the product from A to B. So there's a lot involved in it. Now, there are people and classes here on this side of the water that can help you with that. You want to talk with either the LA World Airports or the Port of LA about services that they currently offer to help either train people or help people.
Oh, so they do have programs and training
they do.
ongoing?
They do. Yes,
okay.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
So you want to call them. You can, in fact, the LA World Airports actually has a logistics center that is there that you can call and talk to, and they will talk to you about air freight and the cost involved, and based upon where you want to send the stuff, they can give you a pretty good idea of what you need to do to plan that. The Port of LA has a really good marketing program that helps people with shipping, both shipping and receiving goods from other parts of the world. So that's always good to know. So those are the kind of things you need to be thinking about.
So now at your conference that you do, and this is how many years have you been doing this?
Well, this is our eighth. It's our 8th year. It'll be our 8th year.
Okay.
And we actually have been through a lot of changes on this conference, but we had a very interesting thing happen this year.
Okay.
This year, we received a serious invitation from Cal State Dominguez Hills to come back to Dominguez Hills to do our conference.
Now, from what I recall, you're doing it in 2 places, though.
Yeah, we're doing it at the Leimert Park Village.
Okay.
And that's because we're trying to establish the Leimert Park Village as an ongoing venue for doing the conference.
Okay, that's cool.
And but this year we received an invitation to come back to Cal State Dominguez Hills. Now, we did our first 3 conferences at Cal State Dominguez Hills. That's where we began the conference.
Right, I remember because I think I came to one years and years ago. We were there.
Yeah. And the nice thing about the return is that we have, as a result of our successes in the past, because Cal State Dominguez Hills has always had a presence at all of our conferences. They've either sent a rep or had someone speak at our conference every year. Okay. So, but they had a change of administration. So from the time that we did our last conference in 2003. They had a new administration, and they didn't get it. Let's put it that way. They just didn't get why we were there.
Okay. Why y'all were there, huh?
The new administration understands.
Okay.
And as a result, and it's an African-American man who has actually taken over as the president of the college.
Okay.
So in fact, I ran into him 2 weeks ago in Irvine at the California Black Chamber of Commerce annual conference. And I'm walking and I bumped right into the president of Cal State Dominguez Hills.
Well, there you go.
So I said, hey, it's good to see you because I'm getting ready to do a conference at your campus in 3 weeks, right? Okay. And he said, I'm glad to meet you because I really want your type of activity at our campus. I said, well, go on. You just go on. I said, now that's
that's a change from the year before when they didn't even want me.
That's nothing but God, right? So what happens is, as a result of being Cal State Dominguez Hills, we now have 4 departments that are working with us.
Oh, that's
to do
phenomenal.
The conference.
Okay.
So the Merv Dimerly Institute is going to be involved, and they're actually developing, each conference is developing a component, each department is developing a component of the conference. So the Merv Dimerly Institute, and Anthony Samad is over there now. He's running that. Well, he's going to do an Urban Issues Breakfast Forum at that campus on the first day.
Oh, fantastic.
In the morning.
Okay.
All right. So he's going to do something
and
else.
He's done a number of topics on this, in the past when he was doing his Urban Issues solo.
Right. But he's going to we're going to start the conference office with the breakfast forum at the campus on the first day in that morning.
Okay.
All right. And then we have presentations that are going to be put on by the Africana Studies Department, by the College of Business Administration and Public Policy, and by a new school that just started there called the Innovation Institute, which is an interesting institute because the gentleman who runs it is actually going to do what you would call a business pitch showcase. And he's going to feature 10 businesses who are going to do business pitches with the idea of attracting investment into their businesses. So he's going to talk about business investment. He's going to have a panel talk about business investment, and then that panel is actually going to be the panel that will judge the pitches that will follow afterwards.
And how did you guys identify these particular businesses?
Well, he identified.
Oh, he identified.
He selected all of them. In fact, but he also told me that I could send some, so I sent about 3 to him.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
But in the future, we're going to expand it. And the goal will actually be to have, it's like they do the Shark Tank. We're actually going to grow that. It's going to actually become an annual event where we were actually going to have investors there ready to give money to people who are good to go. And the nice thing about the Institute is they will prepare them to make the presentations.
Oh, okay.
That's what the job is to prepare them. So what we'll get an idea from the competition is the showcase is exactly how the Innovation Institute will work to prepare people to actually make their pitch. And it's interesting because Gary Polk, who's the director there.
Yeah, I've met Gary. Actually, Gary sat on a panel. We did the Youth Entrepreneur, the Biz Camp that I do.
Right.
And he was one of the judges last year.
Right. But he's very good at teaching people how to do this. Plus, he's got banks and investors in his hip pocket that are good to go.
Okay.
And he's inviting some, but I also recommended about 2 or 3 that he added to the panel as well. So that's the important part of what.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, that's some good stuff there.
But it's really good stuff. But the other thing that's come up that is even better is that this year the California Legislative Black Caucus has signed on to be part of our conference.
Oh, that is fun. So
they're
now
sending a rep to the conference. But they're doing all this because they want us to do the conference in Sacramento next year.
Okay.
All right?
So you've grown up.
So this
finally
year,
is happening, right?
So this year, on Monday, I got to go to Sacramento. They're going to have the first annual Pan-African Trade and Investment Week in Sacramento.
Well, congratulations.
Next week.
Wow.
All right, leading up to their conference. So they're going to have a special planning session in the state capitol in room 126 on Monday morning. They're going to talk about the conference and they officially inaugurate Pan-African Business and Investment Week for the state of California.
Well, then that tells me a couple of things. That obviously it has definitely having conversation about it, and there is a movement to make this happen. Well, that's what that kind of tells me.
Well, no, that's not kind of. That's real.
That's real.
But the important thing about it is that we actually now have a lobbyist working for us in Sacramento.
That is fantastic.
And Mel Agassar, who I'd known Mel when I used to work for Diane Watson. I was her chief of staff in L.A.
Okay.
Mel was Dave Roberti's chief of staff in Sacramento. Okay. We hadn't seen each other in years.
Wow.
And so when I went down to Sacramento, somebody said, "You need to come by and meet this guy, Mel. He says he wants to help." We looked at each other and we almost fell out laughing. Okay. So what's happening is that I've hired him as my lobbyist.
Okay.
And he's now working Sacramento for me. And as a result of his work, not only do we have the California Legislative Black Caucus on board this year, not only are they hosting us in Sacramento next year, but the governor's office is sending a rep from their Business and Economic Development department to talk to us about, get this, EB-5 programs.
Oh, wow.
Now,
in fact, the same time you were here, and we do need to be, in fact, it's so funny you said that, because Mike Jones, who used to be the chamber.
Right.
In Crenshaw,
right?
We were just having a conversation yesterday. He was like, "We need to pull together some people and talk about EB-5."
Well, guess what? He's going to make a presentation at our conference in Leimert Park about the EB-5 program, the state's EB-5 program.
Okay, and when is that going to be?
That's going to be on the 28th. 28th.
Okay.
But he's also coming to the conference on the 27th.
Okay.
All right? Because I spoke to him just earlier this week, and he's very anxious to come. Now, the good thing about this is that you're the one that got me to come to the EB-5 meeting,
EB-5, because I thought it just seemed like so easy, right?
Right. And so you invited me to the show. I said, "Oh wow, wait till I go to Chris to the show."
Oh yeah, right. That was kind of back there when but I don't know what happened to it.
But the bottom line is the state has an EB-5 program.
Okay.
All right, and they also have a foreign direct investment program. And the problem is we don't know nothing about it. Mm-hmm. So the good thing about it is that he's coming to talk to us about it. Joe Rozan has an EB-5 program.
Oh, over at the Vermont Slauson.
Right.
Okay,
right.
He ain't told nobody about that
exactly. Well, we invited Joe to come to Leimert along with this guy to talk about EB-5. Okay. And we're talking about what is happening now. We're not talking about no future. We're talking about what exists right now. Okay. But in addition to that, we've already submitted a proposal to our lobbyists for how to actually create a formal trade investment program with the state of California and Africa and the Pan-African and the Caribbean, and that will focus on Pan-African trade and commerce. Okay?
That'd be fantastic.
So we've already written it up. we submitted it, and we're praying that if Gavin Newsom gets in as the new governor, that we'll have it there in time to give to his new person that comes in, and then we'll use Mel to kind of promote it and get it rolling. But we're going to actually start it on Monday, because we're going to get the ball rolling on Monday to get it on record that we're doing this. Okay?
Wow. Congratulations, Al. Your work is all working. It's more.
But then we're going to do a conference in Sacramento next year.
Fantastic.
Okay. And the California Legislative Black Caucus will host us. So this year is preparing for next year.
That's fantastic.
So it's very important that we get people out this year to learn about what we're going to be doing not only this year, but also what's coming up next year.
Okay.
All right. And prayerfully, if we can just get that man out of the White House, because we actually received requests for involvement from people from the continent. We couldn't get a visa for any of them to come.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
All right.
Because he's just got everything. I mean, did you hear him yesterday? He wants to put a wall. Now he can't even do in America.
Right.
The wall in Mexico.
Right.
So he now wants to put a wall across the whole sub-Sahara desert.
Oh, she's crazy.
So that the Africans can't come up to the whole entire continent of Africa.
But that's impossible. He can't do that. It's impossible. The continent of Africa, that wall would have to be 3 times the size of the U.S.
Right.
Now let's be real, America. Listen to me. Get this man out of office. Right. He's insane.
He's insane.
He is totally out of his mind, and the only people that are falling for that are his followers. All right.
Which is about 30%, which is actually getting smaller.
Right.
But exactly. I think unfortunately, we had to get to this place so people would understand the realities of what goes on when it comes to a small percentage in America, which are these old white men that have been around forever and ever, that they still have that colonial mentality, right? And so I think this is uncomfortable as all hell, but I think this is the only way we can get it exposed.
At least people can see it for what it is.
They can see it for what it is, and so they're not taking our word for it.
Exactly.
That is our imagination.
Exactly.
Now they can see it for really what it
really is.
But this is phenomenal. So let me ask this question. How does Recycling Black Dollars get involved?
Well, this is what we want to do.
And the Business Zone.
The important thing is that the fact that we have a relationship with the California State University, Dominguez Hills, means they have access now to the Innovation Incubator.
Okay.
All right. That they can be involved in that as a training. Train them and actually doing business pitches for investment purposes.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Now, the other part of this is that we're working on getting the Africana Studies Department to actually create a international trade program as part of its programming through that department. We want to actually have a college where people can go and be trained in this. And they don't have to necessarily do it as 4-year thing. They can just do it as a program where they can do it as an elective, or they can just offer it as something that a business person can just come to the college and take it like they would go to do a small college, a small workshop.
Like if they were going to a community college and take a certificate type program.
Exactly, and they have certificated programs at state colleges, but nothing that focuses on international trade. They attempted it in the past at Dominguez Hills, but they didn't last, and I'm thinking the problem primarily because I knew the instructor, and the focus that the instructor had, I don't think allowed a small business owner to really get involved at the level in which they needed to. The main thing that most people who say, for example, or who own a small business, or maybe even being sole proprietors, is that they have to go in with understanding of how it works, and then they have to scale it down to their level of operation.
Right.
Because there's certain things that you can do literally as a person by yourself over the phone if you're going to do a small transaction. No problem. But when you start talking about large transactions, then you got to have yourself, you got the institution place, you got to have some financiers backing you up, or at least a bank backing you up, so you got some money that people will give you if you need to do a large transaction. You got to have your logistics in place and plan. You got to know how you're going to get product A to product B. You got to have your financing in place. You got to have your insurance in place. All that's got to be in place, and you have to plan for that and have it in place hopefully before you do the transaction.
Right, exactly. But you got to understand what it is you need,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So that course would be great.
Yeah.
But I think even from our standpoint, even businesses knowing that they could. So you almost need that introduction done on our level, right?
Exactly.
So
But see, recycling back dollars, as I recall, you were actually teaching people to do certain things. Well, there's nothing wrong with us getting a professor to a place where you would establish to teach this stuff.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
So all we would need to do would be to just line somebody up, figure out what the fee is going to be and how much he needs to get paid to be there once a week for X amount of weeks.
That's right, exactly. And then you have to, and that wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Just getting them there. I think even us having just an introduction as to what it looks like, and then what this person would teach, and if their businesses would work.
But even so, even beyond that, when we hook up, we're going to hook up with the California Black Chamber this year.
Okay.
And I've already begun talking with Ardrey because he's planning to take some people to South Africa next year.
Okay.
All right. Now, what I told Ardrey we would do is I would work with him on helping to plan the trade mission, but I also want to work with him on creating a trade program for his members.
Yeah.
So that they will be trained in advance on on how to do business internationally before they get on the plane to go to South Africa. Now, if we could, recycling back dollars, could say, for example, do the same thing for their members, with the idea of having a trade mission at the end of it.
That would be fantastic.
All right. To take them, to Africa, to the Caribbean, wherever they might want to go to do business. And then we set up in advance, meetings for them with chambers of commerce, with government officials, with, individuals, whatever. All that can be done through consulates here for any country that we want to go to. So we could say, for example, call up the Ethiopian consulate, who will be at our conference this year.
Right.
And we could basically tell them, look, we're training some people who will be ready to go to Ethiopia, say, in February of next year. Can you help us plan a trade mission to Ethiopia for February of next year? They will say yes.
Oh, okay.
All right. And they will get on the phone, and they will begin the process of setting up the meetings that we need, and they will help us with visas and everything else that needs to be done to get the group there.
Okay. Okay. And actually, one of the things I'm going to implement is, our millennials who have just come out of college, right? And didn't learn how to run a business. I mean, they learned how to, the theory of business, in school. But I want to reach out to that age group because there are a lot of them that have come out of college, and anywhere from the age of 25 or 22 from out of college up to 30, which is that millennial age group, who are interested in starting a business. Now, these are young kids who have this innovative ideas,
They're the best ones.
Right?
They're
and so that's my outreach. I want to outreach them, and I'm going to have an event, or actually a whole workshop series on reaching out to them. Come out and let's talk, because they already got ideas, they're doing gigs, they're doing all that kind of stuff, but now we need to put it in a formal business, and they're at that place where they can leverage up, and scale up, and they don't have any bad habits or fear, and so those could be the ones that we could actually start conditioning.
They're
and
the
then
best
ones, and if they right out of school, if we give them set the buzz and set the flame, and then just get them into a certificate program, and then they be the ones.
But they could even start businesses while they're in school.
Exactly.
So to help pay for the tuition, because you can do a transaction that'll take care of at least a year of college if you actually do a good transaction. So that is the kind of thing we want to do. The other thing is we want to actually also begin to set up exchange programs where students from the continent of the Caribbean can come here and actually learn as well. The other thing that we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be featuring a project we're working on with the California Black Agriculture Association. We have formally received an approval through the Board of Supervisors for Sacramento County to have access to a 140-acre facility that used to be a juvenile detention facility, and they've agreed to let us turn it into an ag processing.
Oh my gosh, that's phenomenal!
Agricultural Education and Processing Center.
That's fantastic.
And so we're going to be talking about that project at our conference this year, and we're also going to be, when I'm in Sacramento on Monday, I'm going to be talking to people about the project. But we're going to feature that project at the conference this year, both at Dominguez and at Leimert. So we'll have presentations on that project as well.
Okay.
Now, so both projects, the Leimert Park development and this Ag Processing Center, have potential international trade potential. And so we want to be able to explore that and talk about how it can happen. The Leimert Park Village can do a lot.
Yeah, and actually, and then you got some young men over there that are some new businesses that are full of energy. Those young men that are over at Hot and Cool, just phenomenal. Yeah. And those are kind of young people that if we could bring those kind of kids in, that would be, and that's who I think we need to be looking at. We're going to take a quick 5-second break so we can bring Gilbert up so he can. He just walked in the door so he can get his little 2 cents in before we end the show. Yeah. So we'll be right back.
Yeah. Excellent. Are you contract ready? Are you bank loan ready?
So I want to know how business ready you guys are.
Part of what we want to do is to match you up with contract providers in Vegas, the casinos.
We put together this training for the contractors in Las Vegas to assist them in becoming business ready.
You know, when you first start a small business, the thing you're shortest on is resources. So the association is actually providing the training free.
Now, Buchanan Associates, they're very well known throughout the U.S., mainly out of the California region, but they have produced so many successful companies that we felt if we brought them here to train our people, that it would allow for that growth because we have so many public works type projects, stadiums that are going to be built slated between now and the next 2 years, prepared to be able to do that work.
You are back to the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert.
That's right.
And our guest, Al Washington from the American U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Africa USA Chamber of Commerce. I'm used to saying it more than you are.
I know, exactly. But you changed the name, didn't you?
No. It's right at the top.
Okay, so he's the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So Al he's going to be doing the next conference in Sacramento.
Oh, yeah? When?
We haven't set the date yet, but we'll start planning. The day this conference is over with, we start planning for Sacramento. We've already been invited by the California Legislative Black Caucus.
Okay.
And they will partner with us. They will be hosting us in Sacramento.
This is beautiful.
They got an incubator over at Cal State.
That is beautiful.
And they're going to do some EB5.
Oh, wow. Is that going to be this year?
This year we're going to be introducing you to the California's EB5 program that nobody knows exists. It's the best kept secret in town.
Yeah.
They actually also have a foreign direct investment program nobody knows about.
Except for Trump. He knows about it because he uses it all the time.
Yeah,
he uses it every day.
Well, the bottom line is we don't know about it.
Yeah, I know.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to be educating people about it, but also we're going to be preparing to take advantage of it next year under the new administration.
That's great.
Yeah, so we're working on that right now.
Excellent.
The California administration.
Yeah, the new California.
The new California.
Right. But some good stuff.
Yeah, we're actually, but to be honest with you, we're going to have a voter registration booth at our conference this year.
Excellent.
That's a good idea.
People can start signing up and getting ready for the next administration, which hopefully will be no
monkey business.
Yeah.
I got an email today. A lot of people on Facebook have set up. I guess you can actually on your Facebook set up a registration.
Please.
So Deborah Thorne has one.
Yeah.
A couple other people that I saw, Overton, they have one.
That's great.
And she was asking me, have you registered? I said, I am waiting for because I mail in.
Right.
I'm waiting for my mail in, and I'm going to walk it to Norwalk.
Yeah.
I don't want no funny business between here and Norwalk. I want to make sure I'm walking. That's what I did with Obama.
Right.
I walked mine to Norwalk and took it and dropped it in the box myself. So that's exactly what's going to happen in November 6th. I'm getting it and I'm taking it.
That's right.
But he's got some great stuff. We just before we went to break, before you came in, we were talking about. I was saying how RBD and the Business Zone can help. So they have a program, a certificate. We're kind of a program at.
What we have is we have 4 departments at Cal State Dominguez Hills that we're working with this year. So we're working with the Merv Diamond Political and Economic Institute, the African Studies Program, the Business Administration and Public Policy College, and the Innovation Incubator.
That's great.
They're all involved in planning our conference this year. They will be involved from this point forward. But
Wow.
they basically are developing the conference that we're going to be doing at Dominguez on the first day.
That is great.
And then we're going to bring some of that over to the work we're doing at Leimert Park Village. And James Burke is there. He's going to be adding some additional folks. But we're going to be talking there about the Leimert Park Development Project.
Yes.
And we're also going to talk about a project we're working on in Sacramento County to develop an ag processing education center.
Right.
And then we're going to talk about the EB-5 program. The governor is sending over a rep to talk about that. But we're laying the foundation for what will be an ongoing commitment to do our projects and out of the Leimert Park Village, Cal State Dominguez Hills. But also, we want to set up a relationship with Recycling Black Dollars.
Yes.
And what you do.
Yes.
Because you got the students. We just need to give you some content.
That's right.
And so we want to be able to do that.
Yes.
But if we can do it in collaboration with Dominguez Hills,
yes.
we also have another education.
That would be fantastic. We can just get the initial interest going and then move them on over to you guys at the same time.
But you'd be surprised. See, what the beauty of this relationship is that the Merv Diamond Institute was involved with our conference from the day one. First day we did it. Okay. All right. In fact, Merv Diamond spoke at our first conference.
Oh, okay. Wow.
All right. He was a keynote speaker. All right. So Anthony Samad is an old friend of mine. I've known him.
Anthony. I actually went to school before he was Anthony Samad.
Well, I know him when he was president of the LA chapter of the NAACP. That's how long I've known Anthony.
Okay.
And Anthony, right now, that institute allows us with the flexibility of doing everything we've talked about without having to go through the college bureaucracy.
Good job.
So Anthony's on board, and that's why he's going to be involved this year. But the good thing about it is that a lot of what we want to do can be done through the institute. But since he's part of the college, that gives us access to the rest of
which is fantastic.
Which is how it's going to work. Right. So he's doing, as I mentioned, he's going to be doing a breakfast, Urban Issues Breakfast Forum on the first day at 8 a.m. that morning. We start that way. So I'm telling all the visitors, everybody that's coming, it's free.
Yeah.
It's always free. Yeah. But stay for the conference. The cost of the conference, watch this, $30 for everything.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
That's $30.
That is amazing.
2 days, $15 a day.
That's nothing.
So
this is some good stuff.
Our goal is not to make money. Our goal is just to pay for cost.
Yeah.
The college is picking up cost for the facility.
Right.
We've got a cost for, Anthony's paying for the lunch, for the breakfast. We got the lunch taken care of. I'm taking care of the reception in the evening. We'll have the food taken care of at the village on the day 2. So all people got to do is give us some money to help pay some bills and show up and learn.
Right.
I think that's a fantastic idea. So you're going to leave some of those flyers with me, right? And then because I got a couple of workshops coming up.
An electronic version so we can put it
Everything
online?
is down at the bottom of the flyer. You'll see Pan-African Global Trade Conference. That's our website.
So if we go there, we'll get this flyer.
Get everything.
Perfect.
You get everything. You get all the information. Plus, you can register online.
Beautiful.
And I definitely want to be there on that Friday. Was the 20? Whenever the guy is coming in about the EB-5.
Well, he's going to be there both days. But he's probably going to He's going to probably make the bulk of his presentation when we're at Leimert Park Village on the 29th. Sorry, the 28th.
28th. So I'm going to be. Come on. I have to look
Friday,
at my calendar.
Right?
Yes, it is. 28th is a Friday.
Yeah. So before the show.
Yeah. Because she's the one that got me into EB-5. I didn't know EB-5 existed.
Oh, really?
Until she said, "I'll come to a meeting."
All out a couple years ago, and then
come to the meeting. I got to show you.
Oh yes.
So
they're doing some
perfectly with what you're doing. Exactly. But I definitely want to be on. Like I said, RBD. We want to work with millennials and get them young college students that are coming out to the work world and there's no jobs for them.
Right.
And I think it's perfect to teach them how to be business owners and then be able to move them into doing global because they're already thinking that way, right?
Exactly.
And so that's what we want to do. So however we can help, we can sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk
and work out our strategy.
Plan it out. We'll figure out how we're going to get the university involved. And then right now, the way things are going, I've got Cal State Sacramento and Cal State San Bernardino standing by.
Okay.
So we'll probably be able to have a trifecta going if things work out.
Great.
Well, you tell us what we need to do.
Oh, yeah, just let us know what we need to do.
Yeah,
I
can
think
get involved.
for both of us, because he does, we both have our area of expertise.
I understand.
And even if we just help to get the foundation of running a business, and then they take it to how we do global and international.
Bottom line is all we do is we add to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just create an international trade component to what it is you're doing, and that gives you an opportunity to travel.
Oh, I think that's fantastic.
That's how it works.
So let's sit down. And actually, I got some. I put this idea out to CIT, and for them to fund RBD for the training of these young people, and then that component to it would be excellent.
Yeah.
Because that really gives it some
Center
extra.
for International Trade Development is actually supposed to be teaching you global logistics and marketing. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Now, so if they're doing their job, a lot of what we talked about will be handled by them.
Okay.
But what we need them to do is to think in terms of Africa or the Caribbean and not just Europe or South America.
Exactly.
Because you got to put that.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources in those areas that they're not even thinking about.
Right. But Centers for International Trade Development has actually spoken at one of our conferences.
Okay, well, we're definitely going to be involved with you. We're actually come to the end of our session this Friday.
I didn't even realize.
I know. But it's been. Everybody, Gilbert came in. So, but yeah, let's once you get back from Sacramento and after the Pan-African, but we'll pop by, and then after the Pan-African, we can sit down and talk about a strategy.
Exactly.
And then we can make this happen, because I think that will fill the void for our young people.
Absolutely.
We're already very competitive here, but that opens up whole new windows for them.
Yeah. And they're ready for it.
And they're ready for it, and they just need to have an opportunity.
Exactly.
So that's who we should give that opportunity to.
Exactly.
Al, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
it. And we definitely want to do it and bring you back on and talk. Don't go anywhere yet. We're going to show, and then we're going to take a picture with you, and then we're going to blast and send us. We'll put this on our Facebook page and let everybody know about the conference.
Great.
All righty. So thank you, guys. And so tune in next Friday from 3 to 5 at the Business Zone with Christo.
And Gilbert Buchanan.
And we're out for the week.
Excellent. Are you contract ready? Are you bank loan ready?
So I want to know how business ready you guys are.
Part of what we want to do is to match you up with contract providers in Vegas, the casinos.
We put together this training for the contractors in Las Vegas to assist them in becoming business ready.
When you first start a small business, the thing you're shortest on is resources. So the association is actually providing the training free.
Now, Buchanan Associates, they're very well known throughout the U.S., mainly out of the California region, but they have produced so many successful companies that we felt if we brought them here to train our people, that it would allow for that growth, because we have so many public works type projects, stadiums that are going to be built, slated between now and the next 2 years, prepared to be able to do that work.